My name is Karen Wilson Turnbull, and I'm a fourth-generation South Lagunan, and I want to tell a story that happened to my grandmother and my father in about 1924 on the beach at Aliso in South Laguna, what's now called Laguna Beach, but in those days was South Laguna. They were standing on the cliff one day inside their store, the Aliso Group Grocery, and they were just watching the ocean. And suddenly they saw this big black neck, something like the shape of a giraffe, and it was black and shiny like a seal, and it was floating along, just cruising south down the coast, and it was looking at them with big eyes and had funny little tiny ears. And my dad was only about 6 years old, and my grandmother only went to the 8th grade in Missouri. She was basically uneducated. Well, they weren't shocked, they weren't scared. They just said, well, look at that. What's that beast? That must be something that's come down from Alaska or Canada or someplace. We've never seen a fish like this. And they called it a seahorse, and they watched it for like 10 minutes go by, told their friends about it, and nobody really believed them. But a week later in the San Clemente little local paper, there was an article that 2 fishermen had seen a great big neck that came up out of the ocean and by their boats and looked at them and ate something out of their nets and swam off. At that time, nobody had even heard of the idea of a Loch Ness Monster. They just thought this was a seahorse. And Dad told this story over the years, and by the way, my father did not ever exaggerate. He was the most honest person I've ever met. He didn't get excited about anything. He had a real Bob Newhart sort of low-key personality. So I lived with this story, never thought much about it. And then in the 1950s or 60s, at some point, Life magazine got that little blurry picture, what they called the Loch Ness Monster, and they put it on the cover of Life magazine. And we subscribed to Life magazine. And I'll never forget my father running upstairs. He was just shaking. He was pointing to the picture on the cover of the magazine and said, that's what my mom and I saw when I was a little boy. And, of course, we gave him a lot of grief about it over the years. But as it turns out, there have been some sightings. We have pictures of something that does fit that sort of description. Just a long, slimy, undersea creature. It could have been a giant squid. It could have been anything, but I believe my dad and my grandma, and I think that the Loch Ness Monster is alive and well off the coast of California here in Orange County, and I just hope we find him someday.